everyone, and welcome to this video. My name's Joe from Get Good Drums, and I have seen quite a few people on our Facebook group, which you can find at facebook.com/group/ggdforum, asking about pop punk, a mix tutorial for pop punk. So I thought I would go ahead and make you one. Now, I'm not a professional mixer or anything, but I know some things. So this is at least a great starting point if you want to start mixing GGD in a pop punk setting. I'm using our uber metal library Invasion, as you can see. You could use pretty much any of our libraries for this. You could also use our One Kit Wonder libraries, but since they're pre-mixed, I thought, why not do a mix tutorial with one of our raw libraries, because we haven't had one of them in a while. So, as you heard in the playthrough, this is what it sounds like. So I'm going to start by talking through the kit selection I chose. So it's pretty much stock, but I went for one rack tom and two floor toms. So that's the largest rack tom. Believe that's 12-inch, yeah. Then 14. I kept them at the default tuning setting, not the low tuned option. For the snare, I went for the Brady. You could use plenty of these snares, to be honest, for pop punk. You could use the Yamaha, the Ludwig for sure, the reference brass. Ooh, that sounds really nice. Maybe the Jordison? If you're going for that sort of more retro-sounding pop, 90s, 2000s sounding pop punk. The rest I kept the same for cymbals, apart from I switched to the 14-inch Serpent hi-hats. And I believe I switched to the Serpent's Ride, yeah. So that's the kit. Let's look through these. I pretty much kept everything as it loads up default. I pulled the rooms down for the cymbals because with the luxury of programmed drums and samples, we can do that. I boosted the snare in the room far because I wanted more of that sort of snare explosion sound in the room far mic. For the trigger, I chose the Pop Rocket sample. I was tempted to go for the mid punch, but I liked how that one sounded. For toms, nothing here apart from I panned this third rack tom over to the left. And then for cymbals, I kept that pretty much the same, apart from, I believe I pulled the hats down in the overheads a bit. So, let's just listen to the drums soloed. So I want to start by saying I'm using Nolly's top-down mixing technique thing. I won't go through what that means because we've got multiple videos on our channel showing you what that is by Nolly himself, who will be able to explain it far better than I. So go check those out if you don't know what top-down mixing is. But drums all routed into a drum bus, which routes into an instrument bus. On the instrument bus, I've got this. We can talk through that in a second though. And then I've also got this compressor, which we'll also talk through in a second. The guitars are going to the guitar bus, which goes into the instrument bus, and the bass is going straight into the instrument bus. I've got some sort of production elements down here, a snare verb, snare reverb, a sub drop, and this sort of synth thing. They all go directly into the instrument bus also. So nothing crazy going on with the routing. With the drums, we've also got a parallel compression send, which is the smash and grab, obviously. We can go through that in another second, and a drum reverb send, but that's it. So nothing super gnarly. And you can see like there isn't loads of processing going on the drums, and going as far as none on the trigger, hi-hat, or the effects cymbals. But yeah, nothing super crazy, just basic processing. A little goes a long way. So let's start with the kick. First up, we've got an EQ. So I love FabFilter Pro Q3. I use it pretty much for all my EQ, especially if I'm doing like subtractive stuff. I just love it. It does what you want. It's a great time for everybody. So I've got a high pass at around 30 hertz just to cut out some of those super subs. A dip at 220 just to cut out some boxiness, I believe. And then a low pass all the way up at 22.1. Just to take out some clicky, because the kicks in the Invasion library are designed for metal, so they are quite clicky. And for pop punk, I just wanted to get rid of some of that. You still want some click, but you know, we're not making a death metal record here. Next up, obviously, smash and grab on the grab circuit with the kick drum type. So that's on and off. Just makes it sound great. I feel like I'm cheating whenever I use smash and grab, but that's why we made it. One-stop shop. Couple clicks and you're done. I've got tape saturation up at 28%. Let's just hear what that's doing. Giving it a bit more thuk and sort of squashing some of the clickiness, which I really like for this. And then that's going into Slate's virtual mix rack. And as you can see, I've done some more EQ here. I'll just A/B it and then tell you what I've done exactly. So it's kind of made it a bit boxier. Now, normally we use boxy as like a sort of bad term, but I wanted it to sound a bit more controlled, as it were, and a bit less scooped. So I'm taking out some of the clickiness at 2 kilohertz, which is that kind of clack. And then I am boosting some around sort of 991. It's still kind of clacky, but it's a bit lower in the EQ registry. And it just provides a different character, which I really liked. And then we are running some parallel compression. So let's talk about what we've got going on here. Super simple, just loaded up smash and grab on the smash setting on the parallel drum type. I'll just solo this. So that's what it sounds like for the kick. And the idea of this is something we've talked about a lot on this channel also, is it sort of squashes the transient and lets the sustain come through. So it's a great way to add sustain and body to your drums. So that's with it, without it. Cool. Then we've got it sending to a reverb channel. For this, I use Logic's own Space Designer. It's great. It's got loads of different reverbs to choose from. Some are sampled, some are synthesized. For this, I chose medium spaces, a room, and bright chamber. All the drum reverb that's going on is this reverb response. And it sounds really great. So nice and wide, And it's got that kind of like early reflection sound, which I thought worked really well for this context. I'm not sending loads of the kick to it, but just a bit to give it a bit of like more presence in this sort of mix. So now let's move on to snare top. So quite compressed, in your face, and a little bit of ring, which I always like. Let's look at the EQ. Nothing major going on here. I didn't want to sort of nuke the character of the drum because it sounds great. We've just got a 1 dB dip at 275, which is sort of a boxiness. And then just killing some of the mids. We've got a 7 dB dip here at 616. So that sort of quack. And then obviously a high pass at 80 hertz. Could probably take that a bit higher if you wanted, but I liked it there. Just taking out those subs there, which you obviously don't need on a snare. Then into smash and grab, of course. Snare, grab, pulling down the threshold, minus 6 dB or so. I'll just A/B that for you. So really bringing that up in the mix there. Then we are running into virtual mix rack again. And here I am boosting some sort of low mids. I guess it's really going into the low frequencies, 128 hertz. I've ensured I've got the bell enabled here because I don't want a whole like plate lift. But boosting almost 4 dB. And then I'm just taking out some of the highs at 1.3 dBs. I'll just A/B that for you. Just makes the sound a little bit rounder and a little bit more body. Then that's going into virtual tape machine for saturation. And I'm clipping it on purpose because I'm liking, this is something Nolly taught me. It sort of helps tame some of that transient and helps it sit slightly better in the mix. So really doing a big job there. And that's such a vital part to getting them to sit well in the mix, I find. We're sending quite a bit to the parallel compression because I love how that sounds. See, we're pulling some bigger dBs on that one. And then we are sending quite a bit to the reverb channel here. You can hear what it's doing there. It's really sort of giving it some width, and depth. And then now let's move on to the snare bottom. This is not a lot going on at all. We've just got an EQ here. So high passing at 100 hertz. And then we've got a Batman configuration, I like to call it, because it looks like a little upside down Batman. Little joke, I guess. So let's listen to what these are doing. Let's A/B it first. So just taking some of the raspiness out and making it a bit smoother. So let's hear what this is doing. So there's just a little ring there which I want to take out, slight resonance. And I imagine same with this. And then we're just taking out some of the sort of boxiness here. Papery boxiness. A thin cardboard box, that one. And then some of the rasp of the snares up here. Just funny, it was sort of making things sound a bit raspy with when the guitars were all in it. I'll just A/B this cardboard box for you. There's actually some resonances in there that I'm hearing taken out too. Pumping it into the parallel compression, get some of the sustain up, and then reverb there too. Trigger, doing nothing at all. The triggers aren't doing a huge amount in this mix, but just helping sort of reinforce the drums a bit. So pretty negligible, to be honest. Rack tom. So as I say, this is the 12-inch rack tom panned over to the left to act as if it's like a 1-up, 2-down configuration. I love how these toms sound. So we've got some more slightly drastic EQ here. High pass 100, and then we're taking out some of the mids and just letting the highs sit where they are. So let's just A/B this for you. So it's taking out some of that boxy mid-range. I use the word boxy a lot on drums because there are sort of frequencies in the boxy regions that you want to take out, I find a lot. So yeah, that's 447 and 1.3, call it. 6.5 dBs and 5.5. Putting back in some of the lows because I don't want to take out all of those. And then onto the compression. Same deal. Toms, threshold down on grab. Not doing loads of compression here, but considerable tape saturation on this one. Just rounding off some of that high end. And then I've got that going into FabFilter Satin. I don't think I changed the crossover frequencies on this, but I took the high band and put it on clean tube and put up some of the drive. I found it helped it give it some more like slappiness. Some more attack. Cool. And then sending this into parallel compression, obviously, and the reverb too. So let's hear how that sounds. So that's without. With. And then we do pretty much the same stuff, but just sort of shift the frequencies around for the floor toms. I've got the 2 floor toms here, but I've put them all into one channel because I find most of the time it works well enough and I don't need to start rooting things out more. So same idea, taking out some of the mids. Bigger drum, so need some to take some out. Take more out, I find. Let's just A/B those for you. Just makes it sound more polished, really, a bit more modern sounding. Taking out those boxy frequencies, which, as we know, add up. Into smash and grab on the toms. I'm pretty sure I just copied the same settings over for this. Yeah, not loads of compression going on there. Into virtual mix rack. Here I'm taking out some more of that kind of clacky mid-range. Just found after putting it through the compressor it needed it. And then I'm doing something here which is different. I've got a gate on them. Now you might think, why are you gating programmed drums? You haven't got any bleed, you don't need to gate them. Well, I'm using it as a sustain control. Because without it, the sustain of these floor toms goes on for quite a time. And I didn't want these subs to go on for that long, so I just put a gate on there with a nice soft knee so it doesn't really cut out super quickly. And it just helps contain that low-end info so it doesn't sort of bleed over into other sections. Because I wanted it to kind of tidy up by the time the chorus comes in. And you can see it just sort of carries over into it. I use this trick quite a lot. I love it. It's great. And it stops things getting muddied up. Satin, exact same settings as before. And the same parallel compression and reverb sends going on there. Now, overheads. Sounding nice and smooth and pretty natural. For this, now this looks pretty extreme. We are high passing all the way up to 300 hertz because I don't want any of this stuff. I just don't need it for the cymbals. I want to hear the cymbals, bruh. Taking out some of the mids here, some boxiness. It's definitely a cardboard box. And then we're just scooping out some of these harsh frequencies here, being pretty general and broad with it. I don't like doing too narrower cuts on cymbals, unless you're taking out very specific ringing frequencies, because I find things start to get a little sort of unnatural sounding. So this is what I'm taking out. It's that sort of raspy frequency I talked about earlier. I found it was okay when I was just listening to the drum solo, but when I put the guitars in, it kind of created this like... So I went in and scooped that. And then just some sort of high-end raspiness, I guess, in these areas. Just quite unpleasant frequencies, which once all put together does become quite overbearing. And then we are running into Soothe. I use this on the Cymbal Soothed preset. And this is just targeting specific sort of ringing frequencies and just helping soothe them. That's with it on. Off. So quite subtle, nothing crazy. You don't want to overdo soothe or else it makes things sound weird. And then I'm introducing some air in this air EQ for Virtual Mix Rack. I do like this to add some more polish to my cymbals. Again, nothing super crazy, just adding some more sort of high-end sheen. And then we've got a limiter, which I believe I put on just to capture that snare drum, so it doesn't poke out too much. Probably bring that down more, to be fair. Not doing loads. And then I haven't done anything on the hi-hat effects channels. Because nothing crazy going on there, really. Nothing I'm going to bother about. And then on the near room, again, we're targeting those boxy mid-range frequencies, which I find often build up in a room, especially when you start compressing it. So I've got a high pass all the way up to 180, because I don't want this stuff. That's all handled by the kick drum and the snare drum, really. So I'm happy to cut those out. And then if we just target these, you'll hear the kind of things I'm taking out. So it's kind of like a gradient from boxy to raspy, and I'm just targeting those specific areas and balancing them. I'm not getting rid of them because you need them for it to sound natural, but I'm helping just like fine-tune the room, I guess, really, to find a more pleasing or more targeted overall tonal quality. And like, as you can see, these are like -6, well, not even that, -5 dBs, because this room sounds great, so you don't need to do much. So that's with. Without. And then that's running into smash and grab on the room, on the smash. So it's definitely boosting the volume, but it's also just helping sort of give some more explosiveness to it. We're doing similar things on the room far, but with some slightly more extreme moves. Mainly because I reuse the room far microphone more for that sort of explosiveness that I want from my drum tones, which means you have it a bit louder. So I wanted to handle some things in here more. Again, getting rid of those low frequencies. Just don't need it. So you can hear the kind of frequencies I'm targeting there. Let's just A/B this. Same thing as I was really kind of talking about on the room close. It's just refining the character of the room. And then running in smash and grab. So you can hear it's doing quite a lot on that room mic there. This is where you really get the explosiveness. So let's just solo, and I'll A/B this far mic. So I'll start with it off, then on. You can hear how much it's bringing to the mix there. It just makes it sound alive. For some productions, I like using the near microphone, but for this, I chose the far, just because it was sort of getting closer to what I wanted. As you can see, I'm not running any of the overhead, hi-hat effects near or far into the parallel compression or the reverb. Sometimes I run the overheads or room mics into the parallel just to add some glue, but I didn't want to do it for this because I didn't think it needed it. So that's the drum mix. And I thought we may as well go on to what I'm doing elsewhere in this mix so you can see. For the bass, I'm using my Dingwall NG2 4-string. I bloody love it. And you'll see why. If I take all the processing off, this is just, it's DI how it sounds. It just sounds great. Ugh, right. Compression. We're just accentuating some of the pick attack really and making sure that we are just evening out some of the dynamics. Then I'm running that into Neural DSP Parallax for some drive. I pulled down some of the mids and then just messed around with like the distortion a bit to get it where I wanted. Then I'm running into R-Bass just to give it some more sub-harmonics at 80 Hertz. I like to try and put my kick below my bass most of the time, so I'll A/B that. Just to give it some of that sub info. And then I've got an EQ. I've got this. I boosted some of the lows, but also added this dynamic range to it just to help even out the dynamics a little bit further. And then took out some of these, you guessed it, boxy frequencies. And that's bass done. And then guitar is super simple. I'm using Nolly's Neural DSP archetype plugin on this amp head. Gain at 12, low at 12, mids pulled down a bit, highs pulled down a bit, resonance pulled down a bit, presence pulled down a bit, and that's it. I've got the overdrive, the green overdrive here enabled. Pretty typical settings you'd see there. And then I've turned the cab off and I'm running that into Studio Cab's Cali. I think I used the ultra smooth preset Misha made, but altered some of the dark bright settings, I think. And that's in isolation, that's what it sounds like. And then that's obviously just the exact same for the guitar right, and then guitar left. Oh, this is the intro guitar. For this, I wanted sort of that classic lo-fi intro guitar sound effect thing, so I just cut the lows and cut the highs. And then I've got this like guitar layer going on, which is the exact same, but I just cut some of the lows because I wanted it to stand a bit differently from the right and left rhythm channels. And then these guitars go into my guitar bus here. We've got this EQ setting here that I put on it. So I'll just A-B that. Just sort of dialing in some of the sort of boxiness here and some fizziness at 2.2 kilohertz. If we listen to these. They're just frequencies I found when everything went together, they just started to add up a bit, so I took them out. High pass at 140, which is higher than I normally go. I normally keep it at around 100-ish, but I really like how that sounded for this one. And then a low pass at 15.4. I don't always use these on guitars, but for this, I liked it. It's just taking out this stuff. And then we've just got some production elements, fun stuff, I guess. Made this cool little like wipeout. It's called wipeout synth. It's just what the loop was called. But I edited it and pitched it a bit using Little Alter Boy for the pitching, which I love, and then some pretty crazy EQ just to get it to sit right. With Echo Boy Jr. handling my delay. It sounds a bit like cut up soloed, but in a mix it sounds fine. And then I made some snare reverb throws for the breakdown, and then to come in on some snare hits. And then reversed one of these and shortened it for the reverse snare that you hear as it drops. And then a little sub drop. And you can see the channel, the EQs I'm doing here. No sort of mixing ideas into that. The EQ on that was more kind of sound designy EQ, just getting them how I wanted to sit in the mix. But there we go. That's my mix walkthrough of this mix. I hope it was useful to you guys. It should at least give you a good sort of template you can use to write with, or even to start a mix from. If you guys have any other genres that you'd like me to do one of these for, or even just any other video ideas, please leave it in the comments. I will read them and I will make them. All the GGD products you found in this video are available now at www.getgooddrums.com for you to purchase and use yourself. So please head over there and purchase to your heart's content and enjoy. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.